Donald Trump appears to be at war with the Republican Party, not just because he moved to fire Greg Bovino today, threatened Kristi Noem, and is generally throwing everyone in his administration under the bus, but because he's actually directly attacking his cabinet. Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, and Pam Bondi. Donald Trump is just off one, and it's mostly because he feels so insecure in this moment. Physically, cognitively, Donald Trump knows that we see his decline, and when it comes to his political standing, it has never been worse. So Donald Trump is lashing out. Again, for those two reasons, his health and his polling. And so before we get to Donald Trump attacking Pam Bondi, attacking Pete Hegseth, attacking Marco Rubio, attacking his whole cabinet, I want to start with the health crisis and the health concerns that doctors are raising Trump is freaking out about. Aging expert says Trump trip revealed worrying health clue. An expert on aging says Donald Trump displayed a worrying health clue during his trip to Davos, Switzerland. Carolyn Aldwin, who studies aging as a professor at Oregon State University, told Slate that the 79-year-old president has really severe language problems. Aldwin said she's particularly concerned by how often Trump makes subtle speech misfires where people replace sounds or syllables with ones that closely resemble the intended word. During Trump's speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos last week, he said of Venezuela's new leaders, "We appreciate all of the cooperation we are being giving," when he appeared to mean given. Trump seemed to realize the error and tried to recover by awkwardly adding, "We've been giving great cooperation." The elderly president's cognitive health has come under increasing scrutiny in recent months amid his nonsensical speeches, repeated confusion, and frequent lapses in memory. During the same speech in Davos, Trump confused Greenland for Iceland and appeared to forget he is president. In a diatribe against windmills, he called the machines losers. Well, Trump certainly doesn't look it or sound it. And his political standing isn't even close to what it was a year ago. So I would say all of the decline for Donald Trump is quite noticeable, and he's furious about it. Really, the best example I can give, and this also just speaks to the insecurity and narcissism of Donald Trump, is when he had the Florida Panthers NHL team celebrating at the White House after winning the Stanley Cup. And he saw how in shape they were. I think in shape is putting it pretty lightly for professional athletes. Top of their game, right? And Trump literally said, "Well, I have the U.S. military." That was his response. Wow, these guys are tough and they make me look so bad, but I have the U.S. military. He sees the militarization of cities across America as a way for him to physically manifest his strength, right? He sees them as his, and I always go back to this, Frankenstein's monster. Donald Trump can only feel powerful by inflicting pain on others. It is what he has done his entire life, so it should come as no surprise that it's taking this form in his administration. And again, he's not just worried about his physical decline, but his political as well, which is why he was even attacking Fox over polls before he attacked his entire cabinet. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Fake and fraudulent polling should be virtually a criminal offense." As an example, all of the anti-Trump media that covered me during the 2020 election showed polls that were knowingly wrong. They knew what they were doing, trying to, quite frankly, influence the election, but I won in a landslide, including winning the popular vote. All 7 of the 7 swing states, the Electoral College was a rout in 2,750 counties to 525. You can't do much better than that. And yet, if people examine the failing New York Times, ABC fake news polls, NBC fake news, CBS fake news, low rating CNN, or the now defunct MSDNC, polls were all fraudulent and bore nothing even close to the final results. Something has to be done about fraudulent polling. Even the polls of Fox News and the Wall Street Journal have been, over the years, quite frankly, terrible. There are great pollsters that called the election right, but the media does not want to use them in any way, shape, or form. Isn't it sad what has happened to American journalism? But I am going to do everything possible to keep the polling scam from moving forward. I would just like to point out one of the pollsters that Donald Trump is referring to as great and quite frankly so fantastic, and we love fantastic, is Rasmussen, that in their latest poll has Donald Trump down 20 points. 20 points. Yeah, that's 20 points. And the most pro-Trump pollster, 20 points down. So is Donald Trump going to sue them as well? Is he going to add them to the list? Maybe. I don't know. But it shows his weakness. And it is why Trump, fearing his political struggles, but especially his health being so poor in public, is attacking his cabinet. Trump trashes his own boring as hell cabinet suck-up sessions. Donald Trump admits that his cabinet meetings bore him to the brink of sleep. Trump, 79, told New York Magazine that he finds the marathon suck-up sessions to be boring as hell, so he closes his eyes as his room of sycophants shower him in praise. The president insists he is not actually sleeping. He claims that he moves his hand to signal to his appointees that he is listening, even when his face suggests otherwise. Okay, I'm going around a room and I've got 28 guys. The last one was 3.5 hours, Trump said, of the December meeting. I have to sit back and listen, and I move my hand so that people know I'm listening. I'm hearing every word, and I can't wait to get out. A video from Trump's most recent cabinet meeting showed him struggling to stay awake as secretaries scrambled to help him and also heaped praise on him. Things were even worse the next time he took to the cabinet room less than a week later, where cameras captured him hunched forward with his eyes closed during a roundtable event. So not only is Donald Trump humiliating his sycophants, of course, Marco Rubio, who bores Trump to death, Pam Bondi, I'm not going to name them all, but Pete Hegseth certainly has some stinkers in there. He's saying that they're boring as hell, but he's also doing my girlfriend lives in Canada, but his hand, my hand, he lives in Canada and he directs the meeting. I just like to have my eyes closed and it's my hand. Quite frankly, you don't know about my hand. It's a directy hand, but you've never said it. You've never met it. It goes to a different school. You wouldn't even know what to say if you met it because quite frankly, it's my hand and I just do this and I move it and I'm like a conductor and we say conductor and we love to conduct. That's his argument. That's his response to being a little sleepy little Donald. Oh, poor little sleepy Donald. Oh, he's so sleepy. Oh my God. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. So he is both saying that his cabinet sucks. Sorry, Pam. You've really been sucking up and Donald Trump's really been attacking you and calling you weak and pathetic. And then he's just done. These people hate their jobs. Can we mention that? How much Donald Trump hates being president? None of these people actually want to do the job of governing. I don't feel like we talk about that enough. But it's a good thing that they do because some of them are losing their jobs tonight, like Greg Bovino, who's out, being replaced by the thumb of a man with a $50,000 kava bag, Tom Homan, as Donald Trump's biggest plank in his policy platform, his border raids, his thugs in our street, yet falls apart. And Ari Melber broke it all down right here.
Now, ousting Bovino suggests that pressure can also work. It's a step towards some kind of change or accountability with who's doing what. But the policy, as best we can tell, remains unchanged. The president is using what are executive authorities, which means unlike some debate over a law, anytime this president could say, instead of sending Homan in or pulling someone else out, he could say, looking at this type of loss of life, we are pausing this plan. We're pulling people back, or we're pausing this policy for a week. We don't have news like that to report on, not yet anyway. And the Trump agenda continues to deploy what is at minimum an unusually aggressive level of force for what are documentation and ICE patrols, and what at maximum may be under investigation for the potential homicide or murder of American citizens. That has to be investigated. But unlike the many situations where we cover use of force and you say it looks like what in policing we call a good shot, or you get to a situation where you say this was a tough, tragic situation, but there's not an investigation being opened. Then you have another bucket where you definitely open an investigation because of the potential misuse of force. And then you have where we are tonight, where an American citizen was grabbed, restrained, held down, as the New York Times put it, and then shot 10 times to death. That's when you definitely open a homicide investigation. And I have more on that aspect of it later tonight. Now I want to continue with the latest because whether the wider policy that I mentioned is actually changed may depend on other forces intervening. And that's also big news today, where Minnesota officials use their authority to go to court demanding that this stop. Quote, just end it. End the whole thing, said the lawyer for these Minnesota officials, and rebuking these types of DHS deployments and the recent killing as a, quote, illegal means to an illegal end. That's the Minnesota attorney suing DHS, which is why you see Minnesota versus Kristi Noem. Attorney General Bondi, meanwhile, has been caught doing something that on its own would be a giant scandal, full stop, even if she doesn't pull it off, which is she has admitted that they, at the DOJ and under the Trump administration, want to invoke federal powers to force or extort material from Minnesota relating to elections. And you might say, well, what does valid ICE enforcement have to do with local authority over elections? And the answer is nothing. Nothing valid here. Sometimes we tell you stories that have two or more sides. This isn't one of those stories. There is no precedent for the federal government offering to use or withhold armed federal agents in order to get voter rolls. So the judge is now reviewing this sort of electoral angle from Trump's DOJ to assess the Minnesota objection that Bondi is trying to pull off a shakedown, a ransom. You'll notice the common theme here. We are at a point where it takes Republicans in public, after whatever they tried to say in private or meekly to Trump's aides and officials, and he is gettable by phone. He is that kind of president. People reach him more than some other ones. Whatever they said in private didn't work. So you have Republicans in public saying shooting Americans is bad. You have the Wall Street Journal saying shooting Americans is bad. You have now the Trump administration saying, hey, we're trying to work with walls, we're pulling these other people back. But they have yet to even verbally get to the point to agree shooting Americans is bad, acknowledging that and perhaps some baseline empathy for this family and the other family and all the other people scared in Minnesota, which would still only be a first step to saying, if you acknowledge it is bad to kill Americans, whether or not it rises to the level of a crime, then what do you do to prevent that from continuing to happen?
It is really, truly disaster in the Trump administration. It's not hyperbole. It's not an overstatement. That is the truth of what is going on right now. Disaster in the Trump administration. And we are going to cover it all because we deserve a little fun news. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. Until next time, I'll see you soon.